Madam Chair, you're muted if you're reading off the.
Thank you. Hi. It being now 6:30 on May 15th, 2024, this meeting of the Brockton Conservation Commission is called to order. The meeting is being conducted remotely in accordance with Governor Healy's open meeting provisions, updated in March of 2023, which extended certain COVID-19 changes until March 31st, 2025. Real-time public participation and comment can be addressed to the Conservation Commission utilizing Zoom virtual meeting software. If you wish to comment during the public input portion of the meeting, please use the raise your hand function to be addressed at the appropriate time. For those joining by phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. Please note that all comments made are public record and should be conducted in a way that is respectful of others. Should personal or inflammatory remarks be made, the host reserves the right to mute the speaker. A copy of this recording will be available on the City of Brockton webpage. All votes will be done by roll call vote to ensure count accuracy. In order to establish quorum, I ask that each commissioner state their first and last name for the record.
Ruby Clay here.
Peggy Curtis here.
Lily Green here.
Sharifa Mapp here.
And Joyce Wars here. Thank you. Quorum is met. And speaking of quorum, before we continue on with the meeting, there's an announcement to be made that the meeting in June is actually going to be postponed till June 26th because of some scheduling conflicts. And therefore the final date for the agenda submission will be June 12th. So if anyone here or in the public is interested in attending the June meeting, it will be held on June 26th. Okay, any questions at all? It's okay. Okay, continuances for this evening before we actually begin are number 6, 166 East Ashland Street, construction of a contractor building. Number 7, 511 Thatcher Street, a solar canopy construction. Number 9, 155 Winthrop Street, a remediation project. Number 10, 45 Industrial Boulevard, a commercial addition. And I believe that's it for the continuances.
I got a last minute request for number 12, 82 Ames Street, just minutes before the meeting. So that is also
Number
going
12, okay.
Until June.
Okay, 82 Ames is continued. Okay, 82. Thank you. Okay, so the first item then formally on the agenda is the acceptance of meeting minutes from the April 17th, 2024 meeting. Commissioners, have you had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes, meeting minutes have been reviewed.
Nice job on the meeting, Ruby.
Thank you.
I entertain a motion, please, to accept the minutes.
I make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
I
Motion
second the
seconded.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the meeting minutes from April 27th. I'm sorry, April 17th, 2024. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Curtis, I.
Green eye.
Mapp, aye.
And Boris, aye. Thank you. Okay, the first filing is a notice of intent for 339 Quincy Street. Before we begin, Kyle, is there a DEP file number? And also, have there been abutters notified?
The abutters have been notified. I spoke to Whitney, who is reviewing Brockton's filings, and she said she was going to try to get that in today. I'm not sure if we have a number. I can check and let you know in a moment.
We could open, but we cannot close without that, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We can go ahead and open the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so do we have the applicant present for presentation of the information about 339 Quincy Street?
Yeah, I've promoted Scott Faria.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Mr. Faria.
Scott, you are muted, but Madam Chair, we have not received a
There
file
we
number for this filing
All
yet.
right.
You have not received a DEP file number.
Yeah, we have not received a file number for this yet.
Okay,
That's-
thank you.
Whew.
Hi, Mr. Faria. How are you?
Good evening, Madam Chair. Good. My wire was unplugged, so I got nervous, but that was an easy fix that I can handle. I can handle plugging a wire in, and that's about it. So a little nervous for a minute there, but good evening, Madam Chair. Good evening, Commission members. As Kyle said, we do not have a file number. I heard from DEP this afternoon. They were just looking. They did not receive the drainage report as part of the submission, so they were just looking for that information to finalize their review and issuance of a file number. So I'm sure we'll have that at the next meeting, Madam Chair. Scott Faria from Holmgren Engineering. And I have before you tonight a residential subdivision for CLM development off of Quincy Street and off of Debbie Road. If I could share my screen, Madam Chair,
Please do.
might help a little bit. All right. Hopefully you can all see that.
Yes.
All right, great. So we were, before you
And
folks,
I'm sorry, it looks really, really small to me. Is there any way to get closer?
I can certainly. Not sure if that's better, ma'am. Okay, great. So we were before you folks back in the fall for an ANRAD application to approve the wetlands line, which I'm just going to zoom to that plan if I could. We submitted, this is the plan. We had the wetlands line flagged by Ken Thompson, reviewed by Beta. The wetlands line was approved. Just to kind of refresh everybody's memory, it's right on Quincy Street, frontage on Quincy Street, and then also frontage at the dead end of Debbie Road, with Pinehurst Lane and Gloucester Street at the bottom of the screen. So we received approval of this wetlands line from you folks in the fall. We then proceeded with a subdivision filing, a preliminary subdivision filing with the planning board, which allowed us to go to ZBA and receive variances from the zoning requirements of 175 feet of frontage and 30,000 square feet, which allowed us to come up with the design that we have before you tonight for your review. So, I'm scrolling around a lot, but so if what we have is 18 lots total, Madam Chair. We have 7 lots off of Quincy Street by way of a proposed cul-de-sac labeled Austin Court. We then have 11 lots off of Debbie Road, which would be labeled Debbie Road Extension. We have 11 lots off of Debbie Road. Each of the proposed roadways would terminate in a cul-de-sac in accordance with the subdivision rules and regs. So in order to make the subdivisions work, we are required, obviously, to do drainage calculations to ensure that we're not having any adverse impact on the neighboring properties. In order to do that, we have proposed a series of catch basins and manholes that will collect all of the runoff from the site. It travels down the pipes and into a detention basin facility out in the back of lot number 13, which is kind of the southeast corner of our property. In that location, all the water is filtered out through the sediment forebay, released into the detention basin, and the water is held back for a period of time within our drainage facility until it is discharged into the existing wetlands. We have just about the same situation here on Austin Court, where there's a series of drainage in the street that will collect all of the runoff and pipe it into a detention basin that then make sure that we're not releasing any more water onto the abutting properties than is currently there. The one other thing that's a little bit different on this site, Madam Chair, that we've tried to do after meeting with the DPW director, the site has a considerable downhill slope from the top of our property all the way in a south direction towards the Pinehurst and Gloucester Street properties. There's about a 30-foot change in elevation. So one thing that the DPW director, when we met with them, one thing they requested was that we construct an earth berm at the bottom of our Debbie Road extension that will just prevent any water that is not collected into the roadway, any water that basically travels along the back of our yards to get blocked by the earth berm, so there won't be any overland flow affecting the Pinehurst and Gloucester Street properties. That earth berm would then direct the water into our drainage facility. So right now, what you have is a whole bunch of overland flow. In this location, there's about a 30-foot change in elevation from Debbie Road all the way down to Gloucester Street. So all of that water is pouring over the site. And as I said, continuing to Pinehurst and Gloucester. So hopefully by the inclusion of this earth berm, it'll stop that water from impacting the Pinehurst and Gloucester Street properties and get it into our drainage facility, slow things down and hopefully make their drainage situation a little bit better than it is currently, Madam Chair. As part of the filing, we're just looking for approval of the roadway and its infrastructure, all the grading, the utilities, the individual lots. There will probably be about 8 lots that would need notice of intent filings after the road construction and at the time that the developer is ready to start building the lots. So those will be individual lot filings further down the road. But for now, we're just looking for the roadway and its infrastructure. And as part of the roadway, as you can see on this section of the subdivision, Debbie Road, there's a large wetland way over to the right, a large wetland to the left. The 25, 50, and 100-foot buffer zones are shown in red. And in fact, there's just a small portion on Debbie Road. There's about 150 feet of road that falls in the buffer zone. And on Austin Court, the road off of North Quincy Street, there's about 200 feet of road that falls within the buffer zone in your jurisdiction. So the majority of the roadway and infrastructure that we're proposing falls entirely outside of the buffer zones. The one added thing that we have on this subdivision that we don't always see, Madam Chair, we have a proposed sewer and water connection that is going to cross the wetland. It would be a temporary wetlands crossing for the water and sewer, so we would be able to run the sewer from Debbie Road out to Charlotte, which is right down here, a street right at the bottom of our subdivision. That'll allow the water and sewer to go through. The main reason we did it, in talking to the fire department, they really didn't want to have a dead-end road here at Debbie Road and another dead-end road at Austin Court. So by doing this, we're able to loop the water main, and it provides better water protection for both the existing subdivision on Debbie Road, and it certainly provides for better fire protection and water service for our proposed development. So we do have that small section of utility that's going through the wetland. And again, it would just be a temporary work going through the wetland. It will all then be restored and back to its natural state.
Okay, so you expect that would be like an easement almost that would go under the wet? How do you expect to do that?
That's correct. We have an easement that would come off of Debbie Road right here where my cursor is. Both the water and sewer would go between the lot lines of lots 11 and 12 down to the bottom of our property and out onto Charlotte Road. So it would be an easement that we would the development would grant to the city for maintenance of that water and sewer line that cuts through.
But it will be going directly through the wetland and will stay there.
Exactly. For this, it's about a 100-foot crossing, a little less than 100 feet actually, right in this area right here. It was pretty much the skinniest, the least amount of disturbance that we could come up with to cross the wetland and still satisfy the fire department's wish to have the water main looped for fire protection purposes.
Mhm.
So we did submit all of our application. It was sent to Beta for a proposal to review. We received that yesterday. I have the check here in my office that I'll be bringing by to Kyle tomorrow. So hopefully we'll be able to proceed with the process going through the Beta review and hopefully have some more answers and a more final review from Beta at your next meeting, Madam Chair.
Mhm. And again, why is it that they wouldn't want everything to just go down the road that's already established, down Debbie Road?
Because we have a dead end, a cul-de-sac. And with a dead end water main, there's pressure issues. The water stagnates at the end of the pipe. The DPW always wants to have looped water mains, just so there are no dead end water mains. It's easier, you have better fire protection, better pressure, and you have just cleaner water having a looped water main.
And you wouldn't be able to take it straight down Debbie Road?
We couldn't take it straight down because these are all private
Okay.
properties that we don't have the ability to go through their property to get to either Pinehurst or Gloucester Street. So we basically need to find another public way that we can get to. And Charlotte Road right over here is the closest one that we can get to accomplish that looped water main.
Uh-huh. And will you be doing both of the road extensions at the same time as with this NOI? Both. You said there was another road extension as well, right?
Yes, ma'am. The second road is Austin Court right here off of North Quincy Street. So it would not be. We would be building one road at a time. It really depends on the approval process. We wouldn't want to be under construction with Austin Court during the school year. So if we could avoid it, we'd rather build Austin Court during the summertime and do Debbie Road extension right over here during the school year, just to prevent any traffic tie-ups on North Quincy Street.
So this
On Quincy
NOI
Street.
is simply for the Quincy Street section, the Austin Court one, correct?
No, it's for both, ma'am. It's for both Austin Court and Debbie Road.
Now, how close are those retention ponds or retention basins, whatever you call those? How close are those to the 25?
The grading, in this location here, the grading, the actual basin itself is at the 50-foot buffer zone. The grading in the outlet falls right to the 25-foot buffer zone. So our limit of work in all locations is at the 25-foot.
Right at the 25.
At the 25, right.
And is that a hill there to the right of that retention basin, that topographical?
Yeah, it is. You can see, Madam Chair, there's
There
a
are several,
few.
yeah.
I believe it's an old farm. There's been a lot of earthwork going way back 20, 30, 40 years ago. I don't think there's been anything in recent years there, but there's been a lot of earth moving back and forth, over the property's history.
So do you expect those areas to be graded and everything during this whole process, the individual areas?
Most of these hills back right up to the wetlands. So no, we wouldn't like that little hump right there, this little hump here. They're within your 25-foot buffer zone, and they'll stay the way they've been for the last 30 or 40 years, Madam Chair.
Mm.
And the wetland, you can see the wetland kind of just molded its way around those areas.
Agent Holden?
Sure. Thank you, Scott. I think Scott did a pretty good job of outlining the project here. In my agent report, one of the concerns that I had was just learning a bit more about why they chose to run the sewer and water lines up from Charlotte Road there at the bottom from the south side. So he kind of spoke to that already for the commission. Beyond that, I don't really have any other comments that necessarily need to be discussed here. Other than, as Scott alluded to already, Beta has already supplied a scope and fee, but we should still have the commission vote to have Beta do a peer review for the commission for this project. But other than that, I don't have any other comments at the moment.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions?
Yeah, I have a lot of questions.
Okay, Peg.
How long does that earth berm last and who will be in charge of maintaining it?
I mean, it's a topographic feature. It would last forever. It basically becomes part of the landscaping of lots 12 and 13.
What happens when it erodes? Eventually, water does erode everything.
It's to be honest with you, we wouldn't anticipate it eroding. It's sloped at a 3-to-1 slope. It's going to be loomed and seeded. There won't be any exposed soil, so we wouldn't anticipate there being any erosion.
Okay.
And it
That's,
will be sloped to, it will be sloped towards the homes, away from the neighbors, is that correct?
Right, it'll be sloped back towards our property to prevent water getting out towards the Pinehurst and Gloucester Street properties, correct?
I noticed that lots number 8 and 9 are basically sitting in the 25-foot buffer zone.
Mhm.
Will they be, number one, I have a concern about construction.
Mhm.
Number two, I have a concern about the owners and their notifications and rights and responsibilities to the wetlands, because it looks like they have no backyard at all, except
Understood.
in the wetland.
Yeah, those, as I said, the individual houses aren't part, we show them for discussion purposes, I guess, and just to kind of be clear as to what our intention is, but the home construction isn't part of this application, and we know that there's 8 to 9 lots that are gonna need individual notice of intent filings. So once we get the roadway under construction, there'll be a notice of intent application that'll come through for lots 8 and 9, to permit the work in the buffer zone at that time.
And the extension to the wetlands for the sewer,
Yes.
how will that be constructed? How will that disturb the wetlands? How is it maintained? Things like that.
There'll be a limit of work area that's staked out. There'll be siltation control that protects both sides of the work. So there'll be a limit of work on the top side of the easement, a limit of work at the bottom side, and there'll be a trench that goes through the wetland to install the water line, and then about 10 feet away there'll be another trench for the sewer to go through. The material will be put back in its place in the exact same layers that it was previously, and then it'll be properly compacted, and the wetlands vegetation will be restored. We'll have a planting plan that will restore those wetlands to the way they are now.
Will that result in fragmentation of those two parts?
I'm sorry?
Will that result in fragmentation of those two parts?
No, because once it's all said and done, the game plan and the hope is when we're done with it, if you went back there a week later, you wouldn't know that we were there. The grade is exactly the same. The vegetation will be replaced. And obviously the pipes are 5 feet underground, and you would not know that they were there or that we had done the work before that. So.
But the water will still flow from that north to south route, right?
Exactly. It will not, it won't act as a dam at all, Madam Chair.
Interesting. And also, there's no road there right now, right? That Debbie Road extension is brand new?
Correct. Debbie Road at the very top.
Yeah, could you bring that back again?
Yep, there we go. Debbie Road at the top is an existing cul-de-sac, Madam Chair.
Is there any way at all of angling it so it's a little bit differently angled, so that way you're not so close to the 25 and the 50?
That's the problem. To come off of Debbie Road, the only access we have is this little piece right here, this 50-foot piece of roadway stub, I guess you would say. So we need to, that is the only place we can come off of Debbie Road is right where we have it. And then as soon
Why
as
would
we
that be?
can,
Why is that?
well, that's the only part of the public way. This is a private lot to the right and a private lot to the left.
Okay,
So all we
just
have is
angle it.
this 50-foot layout right here to tie into, and we're getting over, as you're looking at the screen, over to the right as fast as we can. We need to still comply with subdivision regulations that have minimum curve radius for roadways to have safe roadways and not hairpin turns. So that roadway layout is the best geometric layout we can do to get as far away from the wetland as we can, as quick as we can.
And this is, has that gone through zoning and planning and all of that? That architecture of the drive and all of that? Has that
It
already
went
gone-
through zoning. It hasn't gone through planning. Planning doesn't see things until you folks do. You guys basically go first in the planning department process. So we've got to get through your process, then we can go to the planning board. But the planning board did see it as a preliminary subdivision plan.
And then that other retention pond or retaining pond or whatever you call it, that's right up against the wetland as well, correct? Pretty much, it looks like it's really up against,
Same thing, Madam Chair. The grading
Right
is
on
up
the
against
25?
up against the 25, correct?
right on the 25.
Yep.
Whew. Now, was this the piece of property that actually had a perennial stream in it? Oh, no, it was not this one, that was not marked.
It was not this one, Madam Chair. I'm not sure which one you're speaking of, but there
I
is
don't
no,
remember.
there is no stream on this property.
Okay. Lily or Ruby? Sharifa?
I have no questions. I'm comfortable with letting it go to beta for peer review
Yeah.
or whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah, me too. You and Peggy covered what I would have had questions on. I had written down,
I
so,
have a jillion more, but it'll be interesting to see what Beta has to say.
right.
Yeah, I have no questions. You asked the question about the way the road connected to the existing road.
Mhm.
Yeah, that whole corner is a concern, a little bit of a, just seems like there's just so much area there that is delicate. It seems if it could be moved over to the right, actually more between the wetlands, it would be a little more
We-
comfortable.
Yeah, we would like to,
Why
yeah.
couldn't you put in a curve, like a stop sign and then take our left into, and then establish the property that way?
I'm
The
sorry,
road, take a left at the end of Debbie, you know what I'm saying, put a stop sign there and then extend the road to the left.
oh, and go
Into
through that
lot
first
number
parcel,
18 and then get
move that house back.
Mm.
right, move the houses back, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, the planning board has subdivision regulations for roadway layout. And the roadway layouts don't allow for 90-degree turns. We have to have radius, centerline radius for roadway, so there's not an abrupt turn, so there's kind of gradual turns, so that minimum
I was thinking
centerline.
of having a stop and then take a turn, do you know what I'm saying? You know, like the end of a street, you come to the end of a street and then. you take a
Stopping right
left
here
or
and taking a
right.
hard turn.
Right, mm-hmm.
And then entering the subdivision that way.
Yeah,
You know,
again, we don't have the you know, we just don't have the space. We just have this area here. You know, the other part of the of roadway design and public safety is we have to be able to get fire trucks all the way down to the end. So if you had that hard right turn that you're talking of, it wouldn't provide, we would have to get the road further in. We basically have to get the road to exactly where it is so we could provide enough of a radius for a fire truck to make that turn. You know, we can't just abruptly turn to the left and expect a 50-foot long fire truck to make that kind of turn. You know, to do that, they would end up crossing over somebody else's property. We would have to extend the stub out onto our road and then take that turn, which would pretty much get us to right back where we are now.
I
So how many
think you
feet exactly?
misunderstood what I'm saying, is that that little stub there.
Yep.
And, taking it to the stub and then adding like a left turn or a right
Nope,
turn. It would
yep.
take away from lot 18. You wouldn't have as much there, but you could do the regular width of a road.
Yep.
And then,
No,
like,
yeah, I understand, but what I'm, so it's this area right here, we would need to extend the road down about 50 or 70 feet and then take that hard left turn that you're saying, so we could provide a turning radius for the fire trucks to be able to do it. We can't make it a 90-degree intersection right here because the fire trucks would end up cutting over private property. So we need an inside radius, this radius right here, you know, according to the subdivision regs, has to be 125 feet, but we can make a 50-foot radius is what the fire truck needs. So we would need to drop that roadway pretty much right to where it is. I mean, it could go further down this way once we start that curve, but in this location here, that's, the geometry doesn't allow us to take a hard left turn. We just can't do that with roadway layouts.
Kyle? Do you have any other discussions or anything, or any statements or suggestions?
No, we've kind of covered everything that I brought up in my agent report. So I'm comfortable with sending this out to beta for review.
Okay. I mean, could you check please to see if there's anyone from the public that would like to speak to this particular project?
Absolutely. If anyone from the public does want to speak to this, please raise your hand and we can promote you to panelist. All right, I see Barbara Lindsay is here. I'm going to go ahead and promote her.
Thank you. Barbara, do you need the map or no?
She just got promoted in, so give her a second to kind of the technology to do its thing.
Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hi, everybody. My name is Barbara Lindsay. I'm an abutter. I live at 116 Gloucester Street. I apologize for my voice. It's a little scratchy tonight. I had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Faria, who went over some of the plans with me. I seem to understand a little bit what's going on, but I still have concerns about that pipe, the easement that's running through my property from the city. It's a 12-inch pipe. It's been there since we've owned the property. But for the last 6 months, it's not handling the water. As a result, it's coming through my property. We're taking our own precautions to do what we need to do here. But we still have concerns that with the removal of 14 acres of trees and soil and new homes coming in, we are the lowest land at 116 Gloucester Street. We have the water coming from Quincy Street. We have it coming from Irene Circle, which sits below Debbie Road.
Right over here.
Where's the water going to go? That 12-inch pipe is not going to handle it.
Mr. Ferry, are you showing us where she is on the map with your cursor?
Right down here at the bottom is Miss Lindsay's property.
Okay, so it's that, that corner.
Yep. And I was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
locating up here is where Irene Circle is.
Okay, thank you.
That's the only input I want to share. I don't know eventually where this is going to lead for the city because they own that pipe.
Right.
I don't know if they need to come in and put a larger pipe in. I know it's my land, would have to talk about it because it's going to involve 100 feet of my land going from the wetlands out to the sewer in front of my house.
Is
So-
that pipe on the map, Mr. Faria?
No, it isn't, Madam Chair. I could add, it's off of our property. It's
Oh,
this,
okay.
this area right here is our property. Ms. Lindsay's property is right down here. The pipe starts, let me say right at our lot line essentially. And she's correct. It runs down, straight down her lot line, basically down to Gloucester Street. There's a catch basin and then there's drainage out in Gloucester Street. So it's a pipe that's right there. There's an easement that goes through. I'm assuming it's an easement that was granted by previous owners to the city. And it's as far as we can tell, it's a 12-inch pipe that handles most of the runoff, most of the drainage from this large wetland area goes through that 12-inch pipe.
What is
So-
that little green thing with the rectangle in the middle of it in the corner there? It almost looks like a limit of work on it. What is that?
I'm sorry, I'm
That
not
thing
sure.
where your cursor is right
Oh,
now? That?
Right there, it's kind of a stone area. So I think just it's not as formal as a riprap area that you would have in a drainage basin, but it's basically just a large stone area to allow the water to get into that pipe, to go through Ms. Lindsay's property and out to the drainage on Gloucester Street. So this whole area here is just kind of really, that's all it is, just a stone area to collect the water.
Right, it's a culvert,
Yeah.
that runs the whole back of my fence.
Yeah, that whole
It's
thing right
it's about 3 feet deep, but it holds the water as it's waiting to go into the pipe.
Yeah.
But it's been overflowing into our yard,
Yeah.
down our driveway. And I'm pretty sure that the mouth of that pipe is on Bertarelli's property. I believe it begins on their property.
Yeah.
And enters my property underground, down my driveway.
Yeah, I believe
That's my reading of my plot plan.
Yep, I think you're right. The pipe it's pretty close to the lot line, but more than likely it's a few feet onto our property. As Ms. Lindsay said,
Yeah,
historically it's the Bertarelli property, so it does begin at the Bertarelli property and then go through her property to Gloucester Street. So as she said, I did speak to Ms. Lindsay, I believe last Friday, for a little bit and just tried to explain it. But again, just to reiterate what I had said earlier, what we're hoping, there is such a drastic elevation change from the top of our site, from Debbie Road all the way down towards Ms. Lindsay's property. There's about a 30-foot change in elevation. So all of that water is coming off of the existing Debbie Road subdivision and all of those lots, in addition to the Irene Circle lots. Everything is draining to this wetland. So the hope is that the construction of our roadway is going to intercept a lot of that runoff. The construction of the earth berm is going to prevent any runoff from bypassing our roadway and coming to the people further down from Ms. Lindsay's property. And then the construction of our drainage system, it obviously doesn't eliminate the water, but what it does is it holds the water in our drainage system, and it releases the water at a little bit of a slower rate than it is now. So hopefully that that the roadway in the drainage system just slows the water down. So if it rains hard tonight, that water's not going to get to Ms. Lindsay or any of the other abutters' properties tonight, but it'll get there tomorrow when things have subsided a little bit. It really just slows down the water from getting to where it's always been going.
Yeah, one other thing, Mr. Farrier, that I noticed, I mean, you have the concrete sidewalk along the edge, you have the road. I don't see any demonstration of like driveways or walkways to the homes themselves to kind of get a feel for how much impervious surface would be there.
They will have driveways, so I'll definitely add those, Madam Chair. I
because
can
that's
certainly, add- I
part
mean,
of the-
realistically, they'd be double, they're gonna be 2-car garages, so they're gonna be 20-foot wide driveways. But I'll certainly add those to the plan.
walkways as well, just to have some feel for the
I understand.
impervious surface that's
It's
gonna
always
be-
a balance. How much stuff do we, the plans get so busy so quick, we try to,
Mhm.
try to limit how
No.
much stuff we have on the plans, but I'll certainly add that for the next plan set, Madam Chair.
Thank you. It's a very, very busy site, so it's kind of a delicate spot, that you're,
It definitely is.
yeah. Okay,
And just one other thing, Madam Chair, before we went to the Board of Appeals, this is going back a few months ago. We did have a neighborhood meeting that the ward counselor set up for us at the school. So, we did have a neighborhood meeting, that was advertised and just to try to hear as many of the neighbors' concerns as we could. And that's really the reason we came up with the earth berm idea after talking to the DPW and a couple of small ideas like that after hearing the neighbors' concerns. So, we are aware that it's a delicate area, and a lot of the folks around us have had longstanding issues with groundwater and surface water. So we're certainly aware of all of that.
it doesn't help with our current climate either. Are there any other, thank you so much,
Thank you.
Barbara. Thank you. Are
Thank
there
you.
any other members of the public? Kyle with their hands up?
I don't see any other attendees with their hands raised at the moment.
Thank you very much. Commissioners?
I actually have two new questions.
Mhm.
One question is for the road when it's built, just the question on how it's going to get when it's winter time with snow and ice, if it's going to be sanded or salted.
It would be, I mean, the hope would be after a couple of years, it would become a public roadway. So it would fall under the DPW's direction and their standard procedures unless there was a restriction put forth by the commission, for a no salt area, but otherwise it would be handled like all the other public ways would be.
That
Okay.
road will be filled as well, right? They'll be sloped.
Yes,
You expect a slope to the back.
correct.
Hmm.
And then my other question, I had a question about the earthen berm and just how far it's extended. So it only goes up to like 88 Pinehurst Ave. So I was just wondering, is it possible to continue to extend it closer to
We,
Barbara
Yeah.
Lindsay's like
nope,
area to get
I
closer to-
understand that.
Okay.
It does continue at least up to the 25-foot buffer zone. Although we're not showing it as a berm, the actual detention basin, essentially what we're calling a 10-foot access road around the basin is, it's for maintenance purposes, just so you could get a backhoe around there if you had to clean out the basin. So that access road, it does slope up to that. So essentially there's a berm here as well. So really the berm would go from the 25-foot buffer behind 62 Pinehurst and then all the way down to the 25-foot buffer behind 100 Gloucester Street. So that whole area really does have a berm essentially around it.
Whew. Okay. So I entertain a motion, commissioners, if someone could make a motion to refer the plans for 339 Quincy Street to Beta for review, initial review.
I make the motion to refer 339 Quincy Street to Beta for review.
I second the motion.
Was the second? Becky?
Yes.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, I.
Curtis, I.
Green eye.
Matt, I.
And Boris, I. It'll be very interesting to see what Beta has to say.
Thank you, folks.
Okay, thank you.
I'll see you later on in the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is notice of intent for 1005 Belmont Street, residential building construction. Is anyone here from Joyce Consulting?
Yes, I've promoted Michael from Joyce Consulting, and if anyone else from Joyce is online in the attendees, please raise your hand and I can also promote you.
I believe Emily Rothschild and John Layham from NeighborWorks are on as well.
Great, thank you. I've promoted them as well.
All right, great, thank you. Am I all set to go, or I was logged out there for a second, so.
Go right ahead. Emily Rothschild, you said, and
Madam Chair, we'll want to open the hearing and confirm
yes,
butters have been
I was
notified.
just jotting down the names of the people that are on. Yes. Yep. Okay, so can you confirm for me, Agent Holden, whether or not there is a DEP file number and whether or not a butters have been notified?
So we do not have a DEP file number for this project yet, and the butters have been properly notified of the notice of intent.
Okay, thank you. And if you could just very quickly, Mr. Joyce, have you applied for any other permits at this point?
Yeah, so we had our first technical review meeting. So we have to apply for a special permit with the planning board. We had our technical review meeting about a couple weeks ago. Then we wanted to present to you, obviously, as the next step. So we had a few comments from the technical review, nothing that would change the course of the project. So kind of it has the same spirit and more or less the same design. So we haven't made any changes. We wanted to wait to hear from your board before we made any adjustments.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, great. I'll get the screen share going here. So my name is Michael Joyce from the Joyce Consulting Group. We're the civil engineers for the project. The proposed project is at 1005 Belmont Street. It's the old roadway in site. In about 2002, it was 2022, it was converted to single unit apartments. So there's 69 apartments in the existing building. Here's kind of an oblique view, and then our proposed project is proposed to be in this kind of triangular asphalt area here. This is Belmont Street, Coolidge is here, and then there's an existing perennial brook that runs along the backside of the property, and there's an associated BBW and floodplain with that brook, which is why we're here in front of the commission tonight. So this is just kind of a view looking out. If you were standing in this parking area here, looking out towards the lower overflow parking area, that's what we're looking at here. Just to give you an idea of the location. This is the existing conditions plan, kind of colored up. The gray is the impervious area, green is obviously vegetation, and the brown is the existing building. There's access to the site from Belmont Street, to existing curb cuts, and an existing curb cut from Coolidge as well on this side. The wetlands run kind of around the perimeter of the lot. They were flagged by John Zimmer of South River Environmental in March of 2024. And then the associated is a 25-foot, 50 and 100-foot buffer shown on the site for reference. In addition to that, we also have the 100-foot, the inner riparian zone, which kind of runs the site here, associated with the brook, and the outer riparian, which runs the site along here. So the existing building has, like I mentioned before, 69 units, and then there's over 100 parking spaces currently in the existing parking area. So what the proposal is to construct a new 31 unit residence in the area where the triangular parking area, overflow parking is, utilizing the existing parking area to park. Right now, it's kind of underparked. There's about 20 spaces on a maximum used at any time. And like I said, after the construction of the new building, there'd still be 100 spaces available on the lot. In order to address the stormwater on the site, we had proposed 20 units of 20 Caltech units. We're still working with the engineering department to finalize that review. So it is still under review, like I mentioned, through technical review. It does decrease the storm events and the 2, 10, 25, and 100-year storms. It ultimately, so we collect the rooftop from internal leaders, it goes into the infiltration chambers and double catch basin here. Ultimately, during large storm events, would overflow and enter the wetland as it does today. The overall proposed project would reduce the impervious area within the 25-foot buffer by about 2,400 square feet, and over the entirety of the site by about 6,750 square feet. So there will be a reduction in impervious area. And in addition to that, all the proposed impervious of the building obviously is replacing existing parking area, so it's a cleaner runoff than the existing parking area. Not sure if there's much more. It could go into deeper depth about the utilities and things of that nature. We're proposing water and sewer connections off of Belmont Street. The access would still remain the same on the site. There is a proposed transformer at the front left of the building as you're looking at from the parking area. But that's kind of the overview of the project. Like I said, we are still going through technical review, and we haven't received comments from DEP, but this is where we are at the moment. So we welcome any comments or questions.
It's literally within the 25-foot though.
It is. So this is the 25-foot line here.
Wow.
And the reason we cited it there was because it is an existing parking lot. So we're removing, like I said, we're reducing the amount of impervious area within the 25-foot buffer.
What about the overhang from the top? Will they be, I mean, there's still impervious on the roof, right?
I'd have to check with the architect as far as if there's an overhang from the facade. From what I remember from the planning, from the technical review, it was a kind of a flat face. But I'd have to confirm that with them to see if there was an overhang on the facade.
You know, that upper corner looks like it's literally.
I'm sorry. So you
Yeah.
mean this area here? That does extend over the asphalt area. Kirsten, please go somewhere else.
Mr. Holden, do you have any comments?
Yeah, sure. So in my agent report, I kind of bring up the no touch zone. So the commission policy, I've got that in front of me just so I can read that for you. So the policy reads: the commission recognizes the 25-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands and banks as vital to the protection of these wetland resource areas under the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act. The commission therefore enforces a no touch policy for the 25-foot buffer zone. Obviously, there's work proposed here within that 25-foot buffer zone. So all that said, I think that, if we decide to move forward with reviewing this project, we will need to send it out to beta so they can review the stormwater for the commission. However, I think that it would be important for the commission to just decide if they want to kind of consider this development because of its placement within that 25-foot buffer. There's not really any sense in sending this out for review and having the applicant invest more money in this process if the commission's ultimately going to deny this because of the placement. So I think that that might be an important discussion to have tonight as to if we're comfortable just with the general placement of this within that 25-foot no touch zone.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I
Go
was just
ahead,
wondering,
Lily.
I was wondering, are there other ways to extend from the building itself a bit so it's further away from the, like, why does there need to be a whole separate building to add more temporary housing units?
I'd have to defer to Emily Rothschild on the thought process. I assume it has to do with the financing process through the state. But I would defer to Emily if she has
So
any.
this is a 31 unit, right? 31
Yeah,
unit.
so this is 31 units proposed. They're all single occupancy units, similar to what's in the existing building.
Is Mr. Rothschild there?
There we go. Yeah, the existing building was developed with tax credits under a tax credit process and owned by an LLC. The second building would have completely separate financing and separate ownership. Father Bills owns the land and leases the land to the owner of the existing building, and it would be a similar structure for the new building. So yeah, we can't do an addition onto the existing building.
I mean, I do kind of want to reinforce the fact that we are over the existing parking area. That's normally, if this was all grassed, well, we started this process before we had delineated the wetland as well, but we suspected that we would be in the 25-foot buffer with some of it. I was surprised to see the wetland on the Belmont Street side of the property, to be honest, but because it is an existing parking area, we would hope that there would be some leniency in the consideration. If it were all grass field, obviously we wouldn't be proposing a building in this location.
Wouldn't this jeopardize the functionality of the wetland though, if it's that close to the buffer zone?
Well, I would argue that by restoring or removing impervious area from within the 25-foot buffer, we're actually restoring a portion of the 25-foot buffer that wasn't there previously.
Is the definition of impervious meaning water can flow through? And I don't believe water can flow through a building, and as it cannot flow through a parking lot area.
You're absolutely right. I'm not saying that we're removing all of the impervious from within the 25-foot buffer. I'm just saying that as a result of this project, there will be less impervious area within the 25-foot buffer than there previously was. And we've also discussed, obviously, a hardy planting plan. We haven't moved forward with that because we want, like I said, we want to get feedback from all the boards and commissions prior to continuing the design.
Is the building extending beyond the parking area that's been pictured?
It does in this the back right corner of the building. I'm sorry, my mouse isn't right there. There we go. This corner here is where it extends beyond the parking area. This line here, this gray line, is the edge of the existing asphalt area. There.
They're just a very small corner.
Yes.
Do you have the limit of work? Where's the limit of work?
The limit of I did not put a limit of work on here. I will. The limit of work more or less would be the asphalt line because we'd be removing the asphalt and revegetating the area.
Commissioners, any feedback? Are there any, is there any feedback at all from the public on this one? Agent Holden, is there anyone here from the public?
I do not see any hands raised in the attendees list. If anyone is here and wants to speak to this, please raise your hand. I don't see anyone, Madam Chair. One final comment, I guess. I think that but before we kind of refer this out for peer review, I do think that we should come to a decision. We don't necessarily have to come to that decision tonight. We could continue to next month, and we can do a little bit more research. And
I would really like to take a walk at the
Um,
site if that would be at all possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Because it
I'm
does-
sorry to interrupt, but what we could do is potentially stake out the building corners or something like that, if that would be helpful, prior to the site visit, so that you can see kind of the footprint of the building as it relates to the wetland flags and the asphalt and things of that nature.
Yeah, it is concerning that we keep saying that it's a parking lot. It's presently a parking lot, but this is going to be a living space for individuals. So, and it's very thin. It's a very thin line of what.
It's currently an unused parking lot too. It's not quite the same as
No,
a residence.
I would prefer to see it before making a decision.
Right. I'm concerned like trash debris and
Of course.
the management of the vegetation so yeah, maybe the site visit.
I do see a patio off on the existing building. Is there going to be any established living spaces or playground areas or, picnic areas that are going to be behind the building, inside the building? That's usually expected, I think, in the apartment building, some kind of outdoor living space.
Yeah, so they're, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was gonna ultimately refer to you, Emily, so.
Okay. There would not be a playground area because this housing is all for single adults. However, there definitely is a patio area. If you look down in the lower part of the building, the writing's small, but there's a patio area. If you were facing the building, it'd be to the left. Yeah.
And that looks like it's within what, maybe 10 feet of the wetland? Maybe.
Yeah, it's close. I'd have to, yeah, it probably is. I'd have to take a scaled off, or I could add a dimension there, but.
And then there's a dumpster in the parking area downhill from the building.
Is there any reason why that proposed building area could be moved to the other, you see where the existing patio is, to the
This
north
area
of
here?
it? Yeah, to the north of that patio area. In the
Well, that would be
15
sort of building
buffers.
off of the other building, I think.
I'm sorry?
You mean
You could-
and added to the other building?
No, just establish it in a free space there.
In that parking area.
Yes, in that parking area.
I think we're wetter over there than we are in the other area, but
Is that within floodplain or, well, it's hard to tell.
The floodplain's out, kind of, it's in the wetland area. It's not,
Okay.
we don't. So the two resource areas that we impact, or the buffers to them, are the bordering vegetated wetland buffers, and then the riparian zones.
I think if it was possible to build the building in that area, we would certainly have to no longer make the parking area where the new building is currently proposed into abandoned parking. That would need to become active parking. Because as much as we're not using it, we were required to have a certain number of parking spaces. So certainly that pavement would stay, and it would need to be used to replace the lost spaces in back. Beyond that, I'd have to, the architects would have to look at it to see if it would be possible to locate there.
It seems like a very delicate area, and it's really close to that exit ramp as well, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually a little bit, let me just pop back to so the property lines here, it is close to the, I believe that's the on ramp, but
Yeah.
there is this kind of vegetated area that's owned by the state that, so our property line kind of runs here. And then there is vegetation between the on ramp, so it's not right on the on ramp, but it is close.
And if it were positioned, so it would be perpendicular to where it is now, would that make any difference at all?
You flip the building?
Huh?
Wouldn't it
Can
encroach
I run it
more
this?
into the?
I don't,
Just,
I think you're gonna end up, if you're
it's not
trying
gonna
to, if the goal is to stay out of the 25-foot buffer, I think
yeah,
you're gonna
Still
have
be there.
less space, if you run it this way.
yeah, it would still be there.
Yeah.
And what are
Does it need
L5?
to-
Excuse
So I
me?
was gonna
Oh.
ask, does it need to be 31 units? Could you like
Yeah.
shorten the building a bit so it's not overhanging the
Well,
wetland?
Or
it
go up
could,
3
it could
stories?
theoretically be tall, it could be shorter and taller. We were trying to keep it down to 3 feet. I believe we're allowed to do, I mean, 3 stories. I believe we're allowed to do 4 here, but I'd have to double check.
I mean, it still
But
would
we
meet.
can't really reduce the number of units and have, well, one, our goal is to really, this is a desperately needed housing for a population that is unhoused. And two, financially, it doesn't work well at much less than 30 units. It's not really feasible. If the only way it could be done was to make it 4 feet instead of 3, we could look at that. I honestly don't remember.
You mean 4 floors?
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, 4 floors.
4 floors, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's an option. I don't know how much that would change the, relative distance to those delicate areas, to the resource areas. Or
Well, it could take care of that back corner where
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
going further than the
Yeah.
existing pavement.
Yeah,
We
And if
could
it would be-
shorten it that way. I
but if
don't,
it would be possible to put the patio between the 2 buildings instead of up against the wetland like that, and,
oh yeah,
you know,
we could certainly move the patio.
so that way it's not sitting on top of the wetland.
Uh,
I mean, if you.
bike store, we
can
got bike
design-
storage there, that could be moved.
Yeah, one of the things to kind of keep in consideration as well is that there is the inner riparian zone.
Yeah.
And we really are keeping the majority of the work outside of the inner riparian zone, outside of taking away impervious area. So that was something that kind of jumped out to me. If you move the building, granted it's all impervious area, but if you were to move the building inside the L and where the existing patio is, then you're sneaking into that inner riparian zone. But just another consideration.
Mhm.
So on that note, Brockton has a 25-foot riverfront area rather than the
Oh,
state.
That's perfect then.
200
Never
foot.
Yeah,
mind.
because it's
So, yeah,
urban.
that's not really
It's
a,
urban.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that might be a resolution. So perhaps if you could maybe take a look at those possibilities, and then we could take a look at the site itself and meet again in June. Is that possible?
Yeah, I think I guess the one question I would have, or looking for guidance, would be if we're able to maintain everything within the asphalt and at least 15 feet off. I'm just some sort of parameters where
Yeah.
it kind of, so that we have something to work towards. Obviously, from the feedback we're getting, that corner that's over the asphalt seems like it's a no-go. But outside of that, is there anything else? And it seems like the patio on the southern side, we'd be better off putting that to the north, so to speak, where there's more asphalt and you're a little further away from wetland
Yeah,
area.
If there's any way you can stay within, away from that 25 foot, however you might be able to do that, if it goes, up a story and over a little and.
Yeah, I would, I understand, just my gut thought is I think that we're going to be impeding on the 25 in some form or fashion. If we were to get a building onto this site. And I could be completely wrong, but if that's the case, I don't know if that's like I want to know if that's a deal breaker, I guess, so to speak. Or
I
if
have
there's
one more
leeway.
question just to clarify. So, because the argument is that you're building on top of asphalt that's already there, and when you guys build, because I think you mentioned briefly, would you be also ripping up that asphalt that used to be the parking lot? And I know you mentioned you'd be making a plan to turn it into like green space.
Yeah, so anything that was asphalt that's not going to be building footprint or the patio area would be removed and vegetated. I think of it. Let's see here. It's kind of shows. I mean, it's obviously a rough showing of it, but kind of this is where the asphalt line is here.
So was there square? Sorry, it's really small. Is there square footage for how much of that asphalt is becoming green space?
Yep. So overall, there'd be about 6,500 square feet of asphalt being removed from the site. Actually, more than 6,500 square feet of impervious. So basically, if there's obviously more asphalt being removed, but then building would be put in. So
Kyle, what's your, I would appreciate your feedback.
Yeah, sure. I'm hesitant to have the commission give any guidance and say, oh, well, 15 feet,
I
because
know,
it's tacitly
know.
approving that as you know, as where we're starting from. Maybe what we ought to do is continue to June, have an opportunity for the commission members to go out, visit the site, see what they're dealing with, and then Michael, just whether that be adding an extra floor to reduce the footprint dimensions of the building, do that, see what the actual footprint size that you're going to be dealing with 4 stories, and see if there's anywhere else on site that we can can nestle that building, not necessarily in this kind of finger that protrudes out into this wetland, but there's on it looks like and I don't know if this is feasible, but behind the patio area on the north side of the site, there's that big open parking lot area. Would there be an opportunity to put a building there so it's outside of that 25-foot buffer to the wetland there?
Since the river, since that riparian zone is different for a city.
Right. That may so I think what we ought to do is over the next month see if we can figure out a way to do this and keep out of the 25-foot. And then we can kind of reconvene next month and kind of make a decision or move forward from there. That's kind of my thought.
yeah, that seems fair. I understand you not wanting to. I mean, it's not wanting to say 15 feet because in a way, then you kind of you're stuck saying, well, I can come back and say, well, you said 15 feet, and but why don't we add see if we can add a 4th floor, see what that footprint looks like, see, kind of an alternatives analysis, and we'll bring back our best, our best option, and hopefully that's good enough, or it's something that we can work towards approving. And in the meantime, we will get out there and stake out the foundation so you guys can.
I think we all are very cognizant of the need. We live in Brockton, so you certainly don't want to just say no without looking at some options. So, yeah. Okay. So that's not really, I guess we'll just, I entertain a motion then to continue to the next meeting with an understanding that we will hopefully have a site visit and that you will be working with placement numbers, stories, all of the above.
Yeah,
And
we'll take the feedback
reconvene.
received. Yeah. Yep.
So I entertain a motion then to continue to the next meeting?
I make a motion to continue 1005 Belmont Street to the June meeting and have a beta review also included in that.
We'll
I-
wait for beta until it's feasible, right? We're sure it's feasible.
Yeah, I think that rather than having beta begin review of plans that are subject to change, I think it's important to kind of hold off on the beta review for now until we can kind of get a firm idea of if we're going to allow the building, where that's going to be, you know, because that could change by the time this comes around next month.
Okay, I amend my motion to just continue it to the June meeting after the other discussion that we've had.
Motion seconded.
Okay, so the motion's been made and seconded to continue, what was it, 1005
Yes.
Yes.
Elmwood Street to the next meeting. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, I.
Curtis, I.
Green eye.
Snap eye.
And Boris, aye. That motion passes, and we will see you next month. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you'll get in touch with Kyle to arrange a site visit.
That's what I was gonna ask. Perfect. Yes, I'll coordinate with Kyle on the site visit. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you
Great, thank you.
very, very much. Really appreciate it. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mhm. Lots of delicate areas tonight.
That is your job,
Yeah.
Madam Commissioner.
Okay, so the next one is, let's see, another notice of intent. It's for bridge improvements on Newbury Street. This is CDM Smith.
Yeah, I've promoted Magdalena, who's I've been in correspondence with for this project. So she is a panelist and is able to speak.
Mhm. Thank you. Is there a DEP file number? And have there been abutters notified?
No DEP file number, but the abutters have been properly notified for this project.
Thank you. Hello, Ms. Lofstead. Welcome. You're muted. Yeah.
I was muted. Good evening. So CDM Smith, we're here representing the Brockton DPW, and with me tonight, I have the bridge design engineer, Jason Fleetstra, and I have Ahmed Ashari, who's a project manager, and Pat Hill, the DPW commissioner, is also online. So if you could promote perhaps all three.
Yes, I have done that.
Thank you very much. So, so we're here tonight for the Newbury Street Bridge Improvements Project, and I'm going to hand it over to Jason Fleetstra, who is the bridge design engineer, to give a brief overview and a presentation and explain exactly what we are doing.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Maggie. Good evening, Madam Chair and committee members. So this bridge, and actually, can I share my screen here?
Mhm.
You should be able to.
All right, well, I guess we'll start. All right, so just kind of get everybody's bearings where this bridge is. So this bridge carries Newbury Street over top of Salisbury Brook, near the Ellsworth Street intersection. It's a primarily serves traffic between West Elm Street and Highland Street. And in this portion of the city, Salisbury Brook is actually culverted through a large portion of this, daylighting at the end of our proposed bridge and before it goes back underneath or back into a channel culvert under the Housing Authority parking lot under West Elm Street and through Keith Field. So our project location is actually right here. And what we can see here, this extra wide sidewalk that cars are parking on, that's actually the top of the culvert working to the west. And it daylights back over here by Carlton Street. So it's a pretty long culvert that we're tying into. We're really just looking at replacing the bridge at Newbury Street. So we were asked by DPW to come out and inspect the bridge in October 2022. There was a hole that was observed in the deck that was actually being used for drainage. Am I still sharing? You see these pictures now? Or are you still looking at the map?
Still looking at the map.
Let's see if I can change that. First, you have to stop sharing the key and share a new screen. All right. All right, so these were some photos that we took when we were out there. So this is in Salisbury Brook, looking towards the bridge. So this is obviously the area where it daylights, and you can see where the cars are parked along Newberry Street. This building off to the left here, this on the south side of the bridge, is a historic property. And off to the right side here, this is actually owned by the city. And these are the training walls here. We have about a 12-foot wide channel. And then once we get under the bridge, it widens up to 15 feet. Let's hope I could scroll through my pictures a little bit easier here. Oh, there we go. So this is now underneath the bridge under that sidewalk. So you can see how we daylight way beyond where the area of the bridge is. So our bridge replacement actually needs to tie into what's currently there, this 15-foot wide culvert. So we aren't proposing to lengthen the bridge any or change the top elevation at all. So we're really matching existing. So it's kind of like a replacement in kind. We looked at trying to save these abutments, but as you can see, it's really just stacked rock. There's some pointing that's missing, and there are no existing bridge plans here. From the top view, this was the hole that was observed that caught, I believe, was the fire department's attention and had us come out there. So what we've marked out on the street here is the actual face-to-face clear span underneath the roadway. And then this is just looking east now, from one side of the bridge to the other. The bridge goes from back of sidewalk to back of sidewalk, and that would be the area we're looking to replace. The limits extend a little bit beyond this because we are replacing the abutments. This is just the clear span, face to face. And this is not an actual culvert. It's really just a drainage grate with a hole that drops right into the Salisbury Brook. And on the other side, they didn't even have a drainage grate. It was just a hole.
So there's no filter or anything under there.
No filter or anything, just a hole in the road straight down. And this is actually the low point along Newberry Street. So as part of our replacement plan, we are going to slightly modify the vertical profile of this bridge to push the low point about 20 feet to the south, about where the DPW gentlemen are standing here. And we're going to put 2 deep sump catch basins on either side to collect roadway drainage and at least provide some sort of treatment before it goes back into Salisbury Brook. Again, this is just underneath the brook under the sidewalk and kind of see what we were looking at with the existing abutments and why we couldn't really justify saving them, especially not knowing a whole lot about how this bridge was built. One slight modification we are going to make is to better improve the flow of this channel. Because as I was saying, once we exit the bridge, our channel is only 12 foot wide, but under the bridge it's 15, and it's all along this north wall. You can't really see it well here, but I do have some more photos, but the wall just kind of butts out 3 feet into the channel and creates a bit of a scour hole at the bridge, which we're going to do our best to improve that. It's photo's a little blurry here, but you can see, so this is right under the bridge where it just kind of like has a 90-degree bump out. And this is where that scour hole is. So really that's the only change we're making to the bridge configuration is changing that wing wall to taper more gradually back into the stream down or to the channel downstream. It'll be about a 12-foot long wing wall. Again, that's all DPW property, so no need to acquire any additional property there. This is the inlet north, way outside of our scope of work, but just kind of what the river looks like coming into that culvert. So it does daylight to the west of this. I'm going to jump to one more screen share here of our existing plans. So we have submitted a couple of reviews to MassDOT District 5. This is a municipally owned bridge by DPW. So just the district does review the bridge plans. looking here, this is more of an overview of where our actual project lies and our limits of work. We got Ellsworth Street running east to west and the Newberry Street north to south. What I've highlighted here in orange is the actual bridge limits we will be replacing. And this is that proposed new wing wall that's coming back to at a 4:1 taper. What is highlighted here in yellow is a little bit additional demolition of the existing sidewalk there so that the contractor is able to install some water handling controls just so they can divert the water to one side or the other. We will be redoing the entire abutments here. One beneficial thing here is we have very shallow bedrock. It's only about 2.5 feet below the stream bed. So we're going to just be able to excavate down to that and key into that bedrock and cast our abutments right into that. Just jumping to another sheet here. Where are we? 24. So let's see. Okay, so this is the more of a zoomed in photo of what I had just showed. And these are, I want to show this just so we can see these additional catch basins we're proposing to the south of Newberry Street with a new drainage manhole that'll collect all this drainage water. All the drainage water coming from the south on Newberry Street will run into this manhole as well before it comes back and outfalls into the Salisbury Brook. And then up on Ellsworth Street, we're going to propose a new drainage catch, or the catch basin will be on the north side of Ellsworth Street, but we'll have an additional drainage inlet here that'll just be able to transfer the water here to be treated into a deep sump before coming back. So those would be some of the drainage improvements we're proposing here. And the water handling scheme that we've looked at, we looked at a couple different ways they could be able to do this. Pumping water is not going to be possible just because of how far they would have to pump it and the need to still use Ellsworth Street for residential traffic. This intersection will be closed during construction, but there is a detour plan that we have ready to go for that so that all the residents still have access to their homes. But what I was saying, it's pretty shallow bedrock, so the excavation is not very far. We would remove the existing stone masonry abutment and then put in our proposed concrete spread footing here and abutment stem. And then once both abutments are installed, then this water handling can come out before the superstructure is put on. These superstructure elements will be precast beams, so they should go right in. They're adjacent deck beams, so they go in side by side and the composite deck is cast on top of that. So that's the bridge replacement plan. Not really changing much from what's there now. This is a bit of an urgent project because we did load rate the bridge when we were out there and found that we had to load post it to 11 tons. So right now vehicle traffic is not, or passenger cars can still use the road, but heavy truck traffic, dump trucks, fire trucks, they've got to take an alternate route around that.
Wow.
Newberry Street we are going to use that when improvements are made to the public service building or public safety building in the coming future too. So it's on a bit of an expedited schedule to try to get this wrapped up and out to bid as soon as we can. So the MassDOT District 5 is reviewing our latest plan set and we've addressed all their comments. So hopefully we get approvals from them shortly.
I have a question.
Yes.
How is the debris being caught when it's under construction?
I sorry, could you repeat the question?
When the bridge is under construction, how will you catch the debris before it falls into the water?
So the contractor will have to submit their stormwater handling plans. There'll be sediment control along the edge of the bank and a turbidity curtain downstream to make sure all that is caught and not transported further down Salisbury Brook.
And did I hear you correctly that that it was concerning that there was a drain in the roadway, so any roadway debris or salt, sand, whatever would fall right into the water. So you're saying you're diverting that now, so there will be no more grate that allows debris to fall right into the water, and it will be caught into something else and diverted into the public sewer system?
That's correct. It will be caught in a drainage catch basin, a deep sump catch basin that will be able to filter some of that out. With the limited space we have, it's one improvement we can propose here, but it will not go into the sewer system after that.
Just into stormwater, right?
Yes.
Fascinating. Amazing what you see when you look underneath things.
Yeah.
I know. Kyle, do you have anything that you might like to add or?
No, this is kind of the first kind of bridge, crossing project that I've reviewed. So I'm learning a lot too. So I guess my recommendation at the end of this was that we refer this out to beta because they do need to review for stormwater management standards. Then also because it is a project that involves stream crossings, and I'm just not entirely sure exactly what we need to do to make sure we meet all the performance standards. So I'd like Beta to, take a look at this for us.
Mhm. And do you think we could get that expedited so that way it could get done fairly quickly?
Elise is on the call today, so she's the one to.
Hi.
Elise.
Yeah, we can certainly make an extra effort to move things along quicker on this one.
But
Jason, maybe. Oh, sorry.
Magdalena, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just maybe Jason, you want to explain, like, because we have site constraints now, we can't meet the stream crossing standards. Because do you want to just go over that briefly?
Yeah, I can go over that. So we're doing our best to limit our footprint here. There's a lot of tight right of way. And we really are constrained with what we have to tie into both upstream and downstream. So there isn't a whole lot of room for improvement on the stream crossing standards. So we're really doing the best we can. We are improving the height by proposing slightly more slender superstructure than what's currently there. So we do provide a few more inches of clearance with our proposed structure. And then with the new wing wall downstream, we're going to improve the flow back to that more narrow channel that's currently there, and avoid that additional turbulence and scour hole that we currently have at the exit of the bridge.
Right, and also because we have to tie into that upstream culvert.
Right.
That's another site constraint, so.
Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion then to refer this to beta for review. And then to continue to the next meeting.
To make a motion to continue to the next meeting in June and for beta for review.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Curtis, I.
Green eye.
Yeah, aye.
And Boris, aye. Good. Thank you very much. We really look forward to seeing how this all progresses. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. That's been a really interesting meeting. Let's see. Next on the agenda is 10 Peckham Ave, a 2-family home, amended order of conditions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Scott Farrier from Holmgren Engineering. And I'm sure you folks remember 10 Peckham Ave. We just got through the Conservation Commission, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 months ago. And it was an approved project. We went through a beta review, mainly for floodplain concerns. And I'm going to share my screen just so I can show you folks. Why can't I find them? That's not what I wanted to show you yet. Let me know. Boy. There we go. All right. I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
No problem.
Hopefully. All right, there we go. Thank you for your patience. All right, so we have 10 Peckham Ave. We received your approval going through the building permit process. The dwelling is a two-family dwelling. The second means of egress out of the second floor was proposed to be a deck, which is shown here in red, in which you folks approved it as a deck. In going through the building permit process, the building department made us aware that it can't be an open deck. It has to be enclosed. For fire safety purposes. If it was a deck, theoretically, you wouldn't shovel it. If we had a blizzard, it would make you hard to leave that second floor doorway if there was an emergency. So it needs to be totally enclosed. At that point, the building department, I believe, asked Kyle for his opinion as to whether or not that would change the conditions of the site. Luckily enough for us, the only thing it would potentially change is that red area now, instead of being a deck, which technically would be a permeable surface, just because the water could go between the boards of the deck. By enclosing it, it becomes impervious, and Kyle was concerned that added impervious might impact our subsurface drainage system that we proposed as part of our project with you folks to handle the roof runoff. Again, luckily for us, it was over-designed to begin with, so this little 10 by 15 enclosed deck going to the drainage area doesn't impact that system, and it doesn't impact the limit of work area, doesn't change anything from what you approved. It literally just puts sides and a top over that deck that you folks had already approved. So it's more of a building code issue that we needed to resolve, Madam Chair, and we felt it was best to come back before you with that minor change.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. Kyle, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Scott. And just to to kind of go off what he said, I did reach out to Beta because they did this review for the commission and inquired if this proposed change from impervious from pervious to impervious would have an impact on the infiltration system, and they confirmed that the impact will be negligible. So with all that said, this is really more of a just a thing to make sure that we have our, the existing plans that we have on file are, what's going to be built. So when we do the certificate of compliance, everything matches. So we kind of, I worked with Mr. Perea and the builder to kind of get this in right at the deadline for the filing. So I'm hoping we can get this. So I'm recommending that we do approve the the amended order of conditions because I think this is just a minor change, and then we can move forward and they can begin their construction.
I do believe that an amended order does require a public hearing, though, right?
It does, yes. And
did it require a butter notification?
It did, and it does, and
you did,
and they did.
We did.
Okay, so abutters have been notified. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak to this enclosure of the deck? Anyone on the?
I don't see any hands raised.
No hands raised. Okay, commissioners, any questions, any comments?
No questions. Sounds good.
I'm sorry, Peggy, I didn't hear you. Was it Peggy that said something?
I did. I agreed with Ruby. I have no issues, no questions.
Okay. Then I entertain a motion, please, to grant an amended order of conditions for 10 Peckham Avenue.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended order of conditions for 10 Peckham Avenue.
Motion seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Curtis, aye.
Green, aye.
Snap, aye.
And Boris, aye.
Thank you, folks. Thank you, Kyle, for your help on that one.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elise. Okay. Let's see, now number 6 was continued. Number 7 was continued. 8.
Yes.
That? We're doing that one, right? Are we doing that one?
We are discussing 137 Peckham Avenue this evening.
Peckham.
Perkins.
Yeah, yep, sorry. That's correct.
Yeah, okay, wait a minute. I think I have the wrong document here. Hang on. And that one, oh, just Perkins. Okay, thank you. So we're already up to the break. Okay, good. Okay,
All right, Madam Chair, again, Scott Farrier, Holmgren Engineering for
thank you.
property at 137 Perkins Ave. I'm sharing on my screen our site plan. We were back before you folks way back early in the winter with our proposal, and just to review, it's the old, I forget the name of it now, but it's the old candy building. It was a candy factory for the longest time that runs between Perkins and Forest Street, kind of adjacent to the Salisbury Plain River. The reason we're before you folks is that the property falls within the floodplain. There is no, we don't have any BVW or buffer zone impacts, but the entire property, really the entire area, falls within the 100-year flood zone. So we're required to file with you folks for that. It's a large existing building, a 4-story building, 137 Perkins. Our proposal is to convert it to a storage facility. And this large building will allow for 812 storage units that vary in size from 3 by 3 to 10 by 30. So there's a whole host of sizes that are available, similar to all the other storage facilities that you see being constructed nowadays. There really aren't all that many changes to the site. The area between the two buildings is entirely paved to get from Forest to Perkins. There's an existing parking lot down in this corner of the property that's going to remain. There's a little bit of green space here in this little alcove behind the residential properties on Auburn Street. And essentially the majority of the site is the building itself. As part of our proposal, we have a few loading dock areas that we're proposing to add to the building. One loading dock right here at the bottom of the building, another loading dock at the top of the building closest to Perkins, and then a set of stairs here on the back side of the building. And really, that's been the cause of most of our back and forth with Beta, was just to get a review, to get a design that worked and didn't require us to fill in a whole bunch of the floodplain just because we couldn't get the elevations to work. If we were filling in the flood zone, we couldn't get the elevations to do compensatory storage. So we took out our previous proposal, had a large ramp right in this area here. We got rid of that. We got rid of a larger dock in this area here, and we're pretty much to the point where we don't have all that many impacts on the border and land subject to flooding. We have a drainage facility that I will move to, a subsurface infiltration system proposed in this area. Right now, there's no drainage on site at all. As I said, it's pretty much all impervious. The roof runoff, parking lot runoff just goes uncontrolled to Forest, into Perkins, and ultimately to the Salisbury Plain River. As part of our construction, we're proposing to capture all the roof runoff into this infiltration system here. And then majority of the parking lot, existing parking lot in this area will be handled by this drainage area right in the back here. So we feel like we're making the property a lot better. We're adding some stormwater management tools that don't currently exist, and we're really not adding all that much to the footprint. So we would request that you folks issue an order of conditions on the property, Madam Chair.
My only concern is that we only received this fairly large packet to review. It only came through today. And there were still some things that were statements from Beta that maybe things should be in special conditions. And so we didn't really have an agent report with the special conditions outlined specifically. You know, the way that I think we should have, and okay, what exactly is it that we're approving as the order of conditions? I feel like we need that document that would be from Agent Holden, or unless the commissioners feel comfortable with what we have. But I just feel like we don't have that final paper with all the special conditions listed as a result of the most recent finding from Beta.
So
That's just my
I've read
opinion.
through the beta report, Madam Chair, and I've gone through and I've kind of highlighted all the special kind of conditions that beta has called out in their report that they think that we should include.
Right.
I could potentially read those off for you. But basically, you know, the report that beta has provided does have all of those special conditions kind of listed in there. You have to dig for it a little bit, but,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
are there.
I mean, there were a couple of things like information from the city engineer should be evaluated. Yeah, there just were a few things when I was going through it. I thought, my God, we just got this today.
Mhm.
And maybe it would have been nice to be able to go through it a little bit. You know, as or at least have a final piece that we could know exactly what special conditions. It's just my feeling. I know that when we were going through the recommendations for how we should be conducting meetings, I think there was something that said you know, we should have the documents in place that we need in order to make a final decision. But that's-
Yeah, and we did receive those documents, but we did just receive those today. So I understand that concern.
Yeah. I believe Mr. May had made a suggestion at one time that maybe we could at least get everything a week before.
Yep, no, that's and we were, you know, we certainly try to do that, Madam Chair. It's just, you know, the back and forth with beta, we finally you know, made the changes, got it to them, but you know, that's certainly not an excuse. And to be honest with you, we were scheduled to go before the planning board in June.
Uh-huh.
You know, we've already gone through tech review. We're you know, we had good luck there. We're going before the planning board for site plan approval in June. It certainly wouldn't be the end of the world if we have you know, if it gets continued to your June meeting, Madam Chair, and fully understanding that we, you know, you typically like to have things a couple weeks ahead of time, and it really, I do appreciate Beta and Kyle jumping on it for us in the last couple of days and today, but I fully understanding the commission's policy, and that would be fine if we need to kick it over until the June meeting, Madam Chair.
Commissioners, do you have any feelings one way or another?
Yeah, I agree with you, Joyce. Let's get what we need to do everything correctly.
Okay. We do have Elise here from Beta. So if the commission has any questions about the project, you know, you may choose to ask her that. I know we haven't had a chance to necessarily read through the report in depth, but you know, she is present today.
I noticed one thing, Elise, that was
Mhm.
requested was a revised WPA Form 3.
Yes, yeah,
All I saw was one tiny little page with changes made in ink. Is that
Yep.
all that's required?
yes, yeah, that was the basically all we needed or all we were asking for is that page be provided just so that the final impacts were written down in one place so that those
Okay.
impacts could be referenced in the order of conditions.
Okay.
And I know the only other thing that we had asked for was for a detail of the storm scepter, which is a
Right.
stormwater component, be added.
Right.
So as far as Beta's outstanding concerns or comments, there's nothing outstanding on Beta's end.
Okay.
So, you know, as far as
And what
we're
about
concerned, yep.
I'm sorry. There was one thing about information from the city engineer about discharge to Auburn Street, that maybe that should be obtained. That was in the review.
Think that was something we just deferred to DPW on. So basically it's something that just prior to doing the work or prior to kind of moving deeper into the project, it's more so just something that they confirm with the city DPW, but it's not something that would hold up or change anything as far as conservation is concerned relating to the project.
Okay. That's fair.
I have a question about a pipe that was mentioned. Is there a pipe with water going to the river?
There were a few.
Sure, I can just try to go over that. there's existing utilities that cut through the property that go from Perkins down, I guess, the back of our property, then alongside out to Forest Street, and then the public utilities go out to the Salisbury Plain River through Forest Street. So there is an existing easement that the city has to run both sewer and drain over our property to get from Perkins to Forest Street and out to Auburn Street as well. So there is existing drain lines that are there currently.
And will your proposed storage facility impact them at all?
I'm sorry, one more time, please, Ms. Kraus.
Will the proposed storage units impact that at all?
Sorry. Again, with the only work that we're doing, really the only change we're making is just by adding this infiltration system here, which it is a vast improvement because right now there's nothing going on the site for drainage. So we're going to handle this entire building, which is a significant portion of the site, into our infiltration system. And we're proposing a drainage area right here in the back of the paved area that'll handle runoff from the parking lot that currently has no runoff. So we're not impacting those existing drain lines at all. We're going to be on top of the drain lines, but not impacting them at all. In the drain lines and the sewer lines are plenty deep enough for our basin to be on top of it.
Thank you.
Would the basin being on top of it, would that impact if, say, the city had to go in and like fix any leaks or anything to those sewage and pipelines?
No, it's interesting. That did come up at the technical review meeting, and so the city, if there was an issue with either the sewer or the drain, like anywhere else in the city, whether it's private property or within the street itself, the city would go in there and make whatever repairs they need to make to the infrastructure, to the drain or the sewer line. And then typically the city, the DPW, returns the property to its state before they went in and did the repair. No different than if they were in the street. They patch the street and leave it the way they found it. So the same thing would happen here. In under some extreme case, if the city didn't put the property back the way it was, there would be an order of conditions on site that would require us to keep this drainage facility here open and as it's proposed, and ultimately as you folks approve it. So any change to the site, just like any other site, would ultimately lead to an enforcement order on our property owner by you folks.
I have a question about that ramp that was removed. Was the ramp proposed so that someone with a large storage unit or something could use it to get it into the storage unit, and how are you handling it now?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It was a drive-up ramp just so you could get closer to the doors with your truck or anything like that. So the way we've got around that, we have a lift right in this area here. So you'll just drive up to it, theoretically take your refrigerator off your truck, put it on the lift, and that'll lift it up to the first floor elevation. So instead of driving up to the door, you'll use the lift instead.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you.
So commission, I entertain a motion either that we continue to the next meeting so that we have a final report with all of the listed conditions in writing, the special conditions in writing.
I'd like a motion to continue to next month with all the conditions listed in writing.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded just to continue this to have the final report with conditions and special conditions listed. And to continue that till the June meeting. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Curtis, aye.
Green eye.
Map I.
And Voris, aye. Thank you. Good.
Thank you,
We will
folks.
definitely be ready next month. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so that is Perkins. And then number 9 is continued, number 10 is continued. Number 11 is 19 Otis Street.
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Barry, I'm so happy you're here.
Good thing I didn't leave. Because I've done that before, just left in the middle of a meeting, forgetting that I had more. So luckily I hung around. So again, Madam Chair, Scott Farrier, Holmgren Engineering. I'm going to share my screen.
Thank you.
This is a project we've been before you a couple of times on 19 Otis Street. And Jesuino Resende is the owner of the property. It's a situation where we had an enforcement order from both the Conservation Commission and from the city. Mr. Resende built a concrete retaining wall and a concrete patio, both on city property and within the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction, as you folks would remember. So we've gone back and forth with Kyle, with our environmental consultant, Brad Holmes, and we're just kind of inching our way towards a final plan, Madam Chair, to allow us, allow Mr. Resende to remove the wall, remove the concrete patio, and put the property, both the city's property and his property, back to the way it was at this time last year before we constructed the patio. So we've submitted plans. Kyle had a couple of comments and issues that he wanted to discuss and address, and Brad Holmes is working on those now, and I just didn't have them done in time for this meeting, but I should have everything to the commission certainly within the next week, and certainly in time for the June meeting, Madam Chair. But ultimately, the plan is to remove, it's roughly 56 feet of concrete wall that's shown right here in heavy black line, and it's probably about 5 or 8 feet from the water's edge of the Salisbury Brook. So we're going to remove that block wall and then also remove the concrete patio that Mr. Resende built on the backside of his stockade fence. And then once that's done, there's some restoration work that will be done, not just to restore it to what it was, because it's kind of a jungle back there, but I think I'd call it more of an enhancement than a restoration. So we'll do some plantings according to Brad Holmes' plan to enhance that area and certainly make it better than it was at this time last year, Madam Chair.
Mhm. Thank you. Kyle?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, as Scott kind of alluded, we're kind of in the process of getting to an approvable plan. We're not quite there yet. Scott, just so for your information, I did speak to Whitney from Mass DEP today. She's the one that reviews for Brockton about this project. So I'll probably just send you maybe an email tomorrow, kind of going over like her comments. These are the technical comments from Mass DEP. So she had some suggestions, but I'll just reach out to you separately, not tonight during this meeting, and we can address that. But other than that, I think I think we are close to a plan that we can approve. But yeah, and I'm hopeful that maybe next month we can actually approve the plan.
I agree.
Good, good. Then I can entertain a motion then to continue to the next meeting.
Sure.
I make a motion to continue 19 Otis Street to the January 26th meeting.
Thank you.
Motion seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded for 19 Otis Street. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Curtis, I.
Green eye.
Matt, I.
And Boris, aye.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
folks. Thanks for your time and your
Very
attention
much.
tonight.
Have a good night.
Have a
Good
good
night.
evening. See you soon.
Bye-bye. Okay, let's see. 82 Ames is continued. 1507 Main Street, enforcement order.
Yeah, so we this is one that we're actively working through right now. This is the Brewster's ambulance property, where there was that dispute with the neighbor, kind of put a parking lot in a wetland area. So there's been I have an update. I've added this to the file. I spoke to Rich, Rich Grondel, who's kind of leading the whole like spearheading the enforcement order response for Brewster's ambulance. So I spoke to him on the phone, and he sent me an email just kind of giving us an update. There was a miscommunication between the neighbor and the Ecosystem Solution, which is the group that's developing the restoration plan. So that's all been straightened out, and they hope to have a restoration plan before the commission next month in June. So I just asked Rich to give us an update, and it's just in the file.
Good. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good. And then the very last item on the agenda is notice of violation for Arthur Estates.
Yeah, I can start with a quick summary. I think someone here is to speak to that as well, but I'm going to go ahead and I've promoted Andrew. I think he is one of the developers and co-owners of the property. But anyway, a background as to what happens here. This is a project that the commission has reviewed and issued an order of conditions for. There's actually two different orders of conditions for the site. There was this is at the end of Arthur Street. The commission approved a road extension for a subdivision. So that's one of the orders of condition. And then the other second order of condition is for the development of one of the lots at the end of the cul-de-sac that's within the jurisdictional area. There's a wetland on the, I think it's the north side of the road. And anyway, I received a phone call and an email from a neighbor that lives down the road on Arthur Street complaining about some flooding that's been occurring, and there's a wetland, the same wetland that this project is nearby. It's kind of washing out one of his neighbor's property. And so anyway, I went out there to kind of check that out. And as I was there, I knew we had this development right here on Arthur Street. So I walked the perimeter of that property just to make sure that I wanted to see if I observed any evidence of like increased water flow from the construction site going into the wetland. I didn't observe anything like that. I didn't observe anything that indicated that maybe the construction was the cause of this increased flooding at the neighbor. But while I was walking the site, I did notice some problems with the erosion controls. So I reached out to Jason Kennedy, who is the primary contact. This is the person on the order of conditions. And just kind of express my concerns. There are really kind of three issues with the erosion controls that I outlined. And Jason responded in an email and was not very accommodating to the commission's requests. So I ended up escalating to a notice of violation. So that's in the file, and that has the photos and everything that are referenced there. After that point, I went out on site with Sharitha and Isaiah and met Jason Kennedy and Andrew on site, and we kind of reviewed the concerns outlined in the notice of violation, and they agreed to install the erosion controls. And I stopped by the site on my way home from work today, and they had installed some erosion controls. I didn't do a detailed inspection, but I did note that they had installed some. So I think tomorrow I'm planning on going back out to the site and kind of giving it a proper look over. But that's kind of where things are now. So hopefully, I think that all the concerns have been addressed. Hopefully, there are three kind of erosion control problems on the site. So I'm going to kind of talk through those with the commission. I do have photos, but those are they're in the notice of violation. We can pull that up if you want. There was one portion of the erosion controls that they had been driving over to park trucks, and so it was just degraded, and I asked that they augment or replace that section. There was another section, a series of areas when they had initially installed the silt sock erosion control around the perimeter of the limit of work. It was very dense back there, and they ended up putting the erosion control like over some down trees. And that's fine for when you're initially out there, but now they've gone in, they've cleared the entire like construction site. And it's, access was a problem before. It's no longer an issue. So I asked that they, do whatever they need to do to, remove those trees and allow the erosion controls to lay on the ground as they are designed to be. And then the third thing, and this is the big one, is that I observed evidence of a lot of sheet flow erosion, water sheet flowing down Arthur Street. Arthur Street, kind of the cul-de-sac that's already installed now, is at the kind of the top of a hill. And then Arthur Street is just a straight shot downhill from this construction site. And there was a lot of erosion coming from the lot 2 specifically, but both lots are more or less uncovered. You know, they've cleared them, and it's just kind of bare dirt now. So there was a lot of evidence of water eroding down these paths, getting onto the cul-de-sac extension, and then just shooting down Arthur Street beyond the limit of work. And there's language in the order of conditions and on the approved site plans for on the site plans for both of the orders and conditions, but then specifically outlined in the order of conditions for the lot 2 development, basically saying that at no point should sediment be transported beyond the limit of work. So I spoke to them about, you know, what some solutions could be. I think what they decided on doing was just putting erosion control basically at the limit of work on Arthur Street. So we'll see if that's effective. You know, it's going to rain tomorrow. I'll go out there and see how that looks. So hopefully that solves the problem. If not, we may have to require additional erosion controls to stop that sediment transport beyond the limit of work. So that's kind of where things are now with the notice of violation. One thing that I do want to bring to the commission's attention, and I think that we ought to make a decision on tonight, is that the lot 2 order of conditions specifically requires that there be an environmental monitor on the site that's been approved by the commission, basically during the entire portion of construction of that lot 2 development until, you know, final vegetative cover is installed and stable. When I spoke to Mr. Kennedy about this last year, he basically said that the environmental monitor is only required for that lot 2 development, and since they were only working on the road extension at the time, that wasn't required. And I agreed, but I hadn't been out to the site. Now that I've been out there, the entire lot 2 area, while they haven't started that construction process yet, they have cleared it, and it is eroding. And so I think that it's important that the commission require them to hire that environmental monitor and have them in place. This environmental monitor will be doing weekly site visits to check for any erosion control issues, and then also giving a written report to the commission once a month. And that's all outlined in the order of conditions already written. It just hasn't been required of the applicant up until now, hopefully. So I think that the commission should vote that even if construction hasn't technically started on lot 2, that we do need to have that environmental monitor in place. And that's, I guess, all that I've got for now. Andrew, I promoted him. I'm not sure if he wants to share some photos, if he has any. I didn't take any today when I was out there, but I do plan on visiting the site tomorrow.
And I'm sorry, Andrew is associate of Mr. Kennedy?
Yeah, I think he's a co-owner and maybe a developer also. I'm not exactly sure.
This is Andrew Spath. Yeah, I'm an owner and also the site contractor on the project. A couple points to note is that we haven't been on the site since November. We paved in November and haven't been back. We've been working through the lot release process with the city and haven't gotten very far. The piece of erosion control that was driven over is outside the 100-foot buffer, and my trucks during the construction were parking on the city's paper road, and so a piece of that erosion control is not missing. It just was compacted by driving over it. The other piece is Kyle found a I guess the bottom line is he's telling us that we have permission to pull a tree out of the along the inside the buffer zone, the outside the limit of work, and I guess that's fine now. It wasn't an issue when we put the original erosion control in. There's nothing that's gotten past the erosion control. As soon as we have a machine on site, I'll pull the tree out of the resource area and we'll lay the erosion control down. The third piece of the erosion running down the street, or what he claims is the erosion running down the street is there's no evidence of it, and we haven't been on site since November. So we put some erosion control at the gate just to appease Kyle, and that's the extent of it. I don't feel like an environmental monitor on a single family house lot that we don't even have the go ahead to work on is certainly isn't necessary, and I don't think is prudent. I don't know if there's been a precedent set by the city that that's a normal course of action, but certainly there is nothing going on site. So that, I guess that's the extent of what I have to say on that. We did add a couple pieces of erosion control. And that's what I've got.
So that site has been inactive since November, you say?
Correct. We paved, I don't know the exact date in November. It was actually the last day the asphalt plants were open. And we have not been on site since, with the extent of, except for to move the equipment out. We went in the following week after we paved and moved all the equipment out. So there's nothing on site there for equipment.
Has the lot been cleared?
The trees were taken down as part of the land clearing for the road. That's a typical course of action for, for a subdivision, or this is really only a 2-lot subdivision, but the land clearer comes in and does, removes all the trees.
And you're aware that when you remove the trees, that erosion happens, whether you're there or not, that, whether snow, rain, things like that, those things all contribute to erosion, whether you've done it or not, once you remove those trees.
Right, but there's no evidence of it leaving the limit of work is what
I've got some photos I can share with the commission when we're ready to go there.
I guess we're ready to go there.
Sure.
Through the chair. Yes, please. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is a photo that I took on April 11th. So this is the fence here is the limit of work. You can see here, are you able to see the photo? Right? The sharing screen is active?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So you can see here, and I have some wider shots that I'm trying to pull up now too, but the fence here is the limit of work. There's sedimentation on the pavement here. This is flowing downhill. And then you can see this pool of sediment here on the asphalt in this photo. So I went out and took these photos after my email exchange with Jason Kennedy. I came back like the following day and all this was swept up. So they had been out there. They did see this evidence. They cleaned it up, but we have photos of sediment transport beyond the limit of work. I mean, the photo exists. I don't know why there's dispute of this, but I've got another photo that I can share too of just the site. So this is lot 2. This is the area that I think that we should have someone, the environmental monitor here to observe. This is the lot 2. This is the area that's completely cleared. And the edge of the asphalt is kind of this line here where these stakes are. There's clear evidence of erosion from lot 2 coming onto this road, and it just flows directly downhill down Arthur Street. So I think that it is important and prudent to have that environmental monitor in place now because there's active erosion here happening.
Why was that surface not stabilized? once it was cleared.
What do you mean? What was it? Why was it not stabilized? We're talking. If you can go back to the other picture,
Yeah, let me.
you
I'll
can
do
see
that.
our new pavement, the new pavement line going completely down the street. We've got basin bags. We've got all kinds of remediation. I'm guess I'm at a loss. I guess I'm at a loss here. Can you show the remaining pictures of the SOC and the limit of work and the other issues that you have raised?
Yeah, sure, I can. Let me get these pulled up here. Let's see. So are you able to see this photo of the tree, or is it, I just modified okay, so this is a silt sock going over one of these down trees here. So again, when this was installed, it was a very dense thicket back here, and getting machinery or even a chainsaw back here to remove this and install the sock properly was problematic. But now that they have cleared the site and access is not an issue, I've just requested that they do whatever they need to do to have this sock sit along the ground. Obviously, there's a hole here that there isn't any evidence that water is going through here, but it could. And so the intention of the silt sock is to be in place to prevent that in the event that it happens, right? So it's a preventative measure, and right now it doesn't serve that function. So this is one example. This is the best photo that I have, but there are multiple examples of this, throughout the site, right? So this is not a big ask, pretty low bar here.
Well, keep in mind, Kyle, I don't mean to cut you off, but I did say that the first thing that we did when we had a machine back would be pull all those trees out. But again, we don't have any equipment on site.
Yeah, I think you could do it with I mean, again, you can do it however you want, but I think that even like a saw, and you could just cut a piece of that off. But here's the portion of the silt sock that I noted was degraded. I didn't know that they had been driving over it, but so I just asked that this be augmented or replaced. As far as this being outside of the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, this silt sock is on the approved plan, and so that approved plan, a portion of this plan, the site is jurisdictional. But when the commission issues an order of conditions, they approve a specified site plan, and that site plan has these erosion controls along the limit of work. So even if this is beyond the jurisdictional area of the commission approved a certain site plan. So the applicant is required to maintain and follow those site plans, even if that is not within the jurisdiction of the commissions. But it is now, by extension of the approving that order of conditions and approving that site plan. So that was based off a discussion that I had with Mass DEP. So that's kind of standard across the state.
Right, and Kyle, and you'll note that not only did I say we'll put a little piece there, but it is crossing the city's paper road, which we were utilizing for parking area. As you can see, it's all gravel and it's uphill from the project. So really the SOC is protecting runoff from the city's paper road onto our project. All we were suggesting at the time is it's probably not terribly necessary because it's outside the 100-foot buffer, and that is a stabilized area that we can utilize for parking vehicles. So we have since put a piece of erosion control in front of it. Like I said at the meeting, that's fine, that's no problem, and we did do it. So that's the extent of that piece.
Yeah.
I think
sorry, go ahead.
as long as you've replaced the erosion controls, as you have in your order of conditions, that's fine. But it doesn't prevent you from getting an environmental monitor in there just to do an evaluation to determine whether or not, or to just keep it up to date. Certainly as a baseline, I'm sure. And that
The-
way, as you start to continue to do your work, then you'll have, that person would be able to see how you progress and make sure that that all the environmental standards are met.
Can I
As
ask, is that a standard, has the precedent been set with previously with the city of Brockton to have an environmental monitor on a single family house lot?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Oh, please do it. Isn't it in
Yeah,
the
this
OCC?
is already in the order of conditions. This was
Yeah.
already approved. This is not new language that I've invented. This is something that's
The
in the
OCC.
order of conditions for lot 2. But the commission hasn't enforced it yet because Jason claimed that the construction hasn't begun. And even if construction hasn't begun, because the lot is clear and it is actively eroding, I think it's important for the environmental monitor to be in place.
And so regardless, my question still stands. Has the precedent been set that the city has required environmental monitor on a single family house lot in the past?
I believe this was a issue of concern because of, I think it was a fairly, I was early on the commission when this whole discussion happened, but I remember that this was the area that had the well, is that correct? It had a
It
spring,
was a former well site, correct?
yeah, spring site, and I believe there was some discussion about an environmental monitor being important at that site. There was some back and forth. I could go back through the minutes perhaps to find it, but I do specifically remember that there was an environmental monitor that was required. No, not on every site, but certainly on that site. And it's clearly outlined in the order of conditions.
Well, ma'am, I just ask that you reconsider requiring that at this time. We have been since November trying to begin work, but we've gotten nowhere with the city. So I just don't feel that it's prudent for us to on a lot that simply had the trees cut, have an environmental monitor look at it every week with there's no activity on the site. We've been diligently working since November to try to get lots released. I could understand if it was an active site, then that would be a different discussion. But at this time, it's fenced off. We've had no complaints from neighbors. This all started from a neighbor that had blocked a drain down the street, and this just happened to be a site visit from Kyle for that reason, not because there's been any issues or concerns from neighbors. So yeah, we're trying our best to get this thing wrapped up, but we haven't had a lot of luck.
It's just about the difficult thing is once, I believe it was Peggy, Miss Curtis that had said, once there's been removal of greenery, once there's been removal of trees and brush, erosion can occur very rapidly and very quickly. And it specifically says that it's not supposed to go outside the limit of work. And it's very clearly stated. And I'm not sure why that's a concern.
So if we can go back to those pictures, wouldn't the limit of work be the edge of where we paved to, because that's where we worked? Right, the limit of work shown on the plan didn't actually line up with the limit of work in the field. The utilities were not shown correctly on any of the plans, so we were a bit further down Arthur Street, to our surprise, to tie into water and sewer.
But the approval from the board, the commission, the Conservation Commission, included an environmental monitor, whether or not you did work or not, whether you've been on site or not. And that's all because once you remove trees, erosion occurs. And the pictures clearly show that Kyle has shown us is that erosion is occurring whether you are there or not. And the environmental monitor is there to ensure that the erosion isn't going where it's not supposed to go. And that's why the silts socks are there to prevent that erosion from going places it's not supposed to go.
So as a preventative measure, we've followed Kyle's request and put a piece of erosion control across the gated entrance.
Right, and the environment monitor's job is to monitor it, whether you were there or not, to tell you whether erosion is occurring and whether it's affecting the areas outside of the jurisdiction where you're talking about.
And again, we've had no issues and no complaints since, or for the entirety of the project.
But
And
that
certainly-
wasn't what the project was approved. The approved project
Right, it was
was
approved
with
for
an
when we
environmental
begin
monitor.
work on
Whether
lot
there are
2.
complaints or not, you were required to provide an environmental monitor.
Once construction has begun on the second lot, which has not happened at this point.
Once you remove debris or trees, greenery, that is construction, that is work on the property. And that's when erosion occurs. That's why the request for the environmental monitor was made at the beginning of the project.
Well, I disagree that that we've got concerns out there. Again, this was, if the neighbor hadn't blocked the drain, this wouldn't even be a
No,
discussion.
but the environmental monitor was required before your neighbor made a complaint. Once you remove one tree from that property, the environmental monitor should have been in place.
So the Conservation Commission defines construction activity as tree removal, I guess is what I'm
Clearing?
asking.
Clearing. I believe clearing is start of construction, no?
Clearing and grubbing or clearing?
Clearing. I mean, I feel like we're just doing this circular discussion.
Well, we're just trying to minimize our cost as we continue to try to get some lots released. It is really, this is not a this is not a large project. We're 2 house lots that we're desperately trying to build on. There's no until we can get to the end game of actually constructing homes that we can sell, where it's a very difficult project for us as well. As you can imagine, there's a large cul-de-sac that we had to install and quite a bit of infrastructure that needed to be done for 2 single family house lots.
Yeah, that is a lot of work for the 2 lots. Yeah.
Right. So you can imagine this isn't a home run of a project for us. We are just simply trying to get the heck out of there. We've followed Kyle's recommendations and we will be happy to go by and check periodically on this, but keep in mind, we also are going into the dry season and we did have quite a wet spring, and I don't know what to say other than that, but we're asking for the commission to work with us a little here. This is
Erosion occurs from any environment. So it could be wind, it could be rain, it could be snow. It doesn't have to be the wet season, but the commission in good faith approved your project with the stipulation that you needed an environmental monitor. That was the request, that was a requirement.
And again, I'm gonna state it again. We're asking for the commission to work with us a little so that we can get this project wrapped up, completed, and move on. Put 2 nice homes there, and
our job is not to impede your progress. Our job is to protect the wetlands and the vegetated areas, and that is what the city has empowered us to do. And we're trying to do our job too, which is protect those areas. And
Agreed,
the
ma'am.
beginning of the project, that was stipulated to you that an environmental monitor was needed. And we didn't say you couldn't build, didn't say you couldn't build your road. All we ask is that an environmental monitor be put in place to protect the areas that we've been empowered to protect.
Agreed, ma'am. And there's no evidence of any siltation going anywhere near the wetlands, ma'am.
But it is beyond the limit of work.
Well,
It's recording. And I feel like we're at an impasse. Is there any reason that you can't have an environmental monitor come in to do an initial evaluation? And then to issue a report to the commission?
Well, again, it's just additional cost on a very, I would at this point call it a break-even project at best. So we are simply just trying to get through this, get it built, and move on.
Kyle, are there environmental monitors that can work at a reduced rate, or is there funding in place for an environmental monitor to work with?
The department, can we get the DEP in to take a look?
Well, and just I think it's important to note, another reason that an environmental monitor is important is so that the commission, or like I don't have to go out there every week to kind of keep an eye on things, right? Like I don't have the capacity to do that for this project, let alone all the other projects that the commission approves throughout the year, right? So the environmental monitor kind of acts as the eyes and ears for the commission to observe problems before they become to the point where there's sediment flowing down Arthur Street, right? So that's another reason that this is important to have in place.
Is there anyone, there's no one from the neighborhood or anything, right? There's no one else that is
Yeah, there's no one even in the
attendees. Okay.
attendance at all.
Okay. Well, I feel so we're an impasse, and if you, I mean, as an owner, if you refuse to follow one of the orders of condition,
I'm not telling you that I'm refusing to. At no time did I say I'm refusing to do any of what's requested. I'm simply asking the commission to reconsider their imposing of an environmental monitor at this stage of the build. It still looks like we're months out from being able to even begin construction at best, based on conversations with Isaiah. So, and I saw that he was on the meeting. I don't know if he could speak to that a little bit more for you, but we're at an impasse with the city trying to get these lots released.
that piece though is not under, I mean, that it's irrelevant as far as the Conservation Commission is concerned.
Again, right.
We-
And so
we
what we
approved
were,
this
it
order.
was,
We approved this order with the good faith thinking that you would get an environmental monitor. It may impact whether the commission is able to approve other lots if environmental monitor is not put in place.
well, it doesn't seem like we're getting very far here. So I guess
Sure. I agree totally. And I think all of our time is important to us, especially at a late hour like this. So,
If I may, Madam Chair.
please do, Kyle, please do help with the
So,
impasse.
Andrew, I did note that you had the erosion control by the fence there on Arthur Street installed, and then that spot that you had previously been driving over right there by the entrance. But I didn't walk out and look at where those trees are going over, and it sounds like you haven't done that yet. So
well, we added some erosion control to the little areas, I guess, that were between the silt sock and the piece of wood, the tree, to stop anything. I mean, you're talking, you want us to go out there and manually cut and lug trees out of the buffer zone, or the resource areas.
You don't need to remove the entire tree, just whatever portion that you need to remove to get the sock down. But I want to kind of keep this moving. So I was going to suggest that maybe we give the developer and the applicant, 2 weeks to kind of finish getting that erosion control addressed, and maybe 2 weeks to get the environmental monitor in place, figure out who they're going to hire, and get that information to the commission. Andrew, I can email you the relevant portions of the order of conditions that kind of outlines what's required of the environmental monitor, and maybe we can just have 2 weeks to kind of figure this out, and then we'll kind of reassess things in a couple of weeks. Does that sound reasonable?
Sure.
Okay. And yeah, I think that sounds reasonable. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Mr. Spath.
All right, thank you.
See, I think that's it for the evening. Whew. Let me see, was there anything else? Oh, I think that's it.
Yeah, that was the last thing on the agenda.
Excuse me?
Yeah, that was the last thing on the agenda.
Okay, good. Also, if you could just do me a very quick favor, the Conservation Commission members on the website need to be updated, on the city website. If you look up Conservation Commission.
Oh yeah, did we forget to take
update
Laura
that.
off?
Yeah, so Ruby.
I'll
could-
update that in the morning, Joyce.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
Thanks. Okay. Well, then I think I entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. If
I
anybody
make a
would like to-
motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you,
All right,
Peggy.
Seconded.
Thank you, Ruby. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Clay, aye.
Aye.
Curtis,
Okay.
aye.
Thank you.
Serena,
Thank
aye.
you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Good
Bye.
night, everyone.
Have a good
Have a
evening.
good week.
Good night. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.